find that there too. It's in all of the episodes of that. So check it out. Send them to me at the official question submission page. Don't send them on Instagram or YouTube comments or Facebook comments. There are way too many and I will not be able to find them all. So please send them there. Also, if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find that link in the YouTube description as well. So check it out. All right, that is it for announcements. I think everything is rolling. What is up? Facebook, I see you. Hey, Facebook, what's up? YouTube, are you here? What's going on? YouTube, what's going on, YouTube? Facebook, I'll say hi to Facebook for right now. Facebook, what's up, everybody on Facebook? Ale, hello. Tamana, hello. Juan from Nicaragua, what's up? Greg, hi, everybody. Welcome. So if you missed it, today we are talking about borrowing, lending, giving, and receiving, in case you missed today's lesson title. This is what we are going to talk about today. So as you join, please make sure to hit the like button and of course share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. I am going to do that. I'm going to like and share the video and off we go. Okay, so let's get started with today's lesson, okay? So today we are going to look at things kind of in pairs today. I have a lot to cover today, so I hope that everything works well. Let's go to our first part. So first I want to talk about giving and getting and receiving, yeah? So I want to talk about these as a kind of pair, yeah? So let's take a look at the first part, which is just kind of like a basic sentence that I want, hopefully, everyone to use in the chat. So our first basic pattern for today is how to give something to someone else, okay? So how do we give someone something, or how do we express this action, right? I want to start with a very basic pattern. Today we are going to focus on simple past tense expressions to practice these, okay? So I gave thing to person. I gave thing to person is the most basic pattern we are going to practice today, okay? For example, I gave the key to my friend. I gave the key to my friend, right? So here we have our simple past tense verb, gave. This is the past tense of give. I gave. Here is the thing, right? The key in this case. So I gave the key. Here's my preposition, to. And here is the person that is receiving the thing. I gave the key to my friend, right? Super basic example. So you can send in the chat the thing that you gave to someone else, yeah? Okay, so I gave the key to my friend, all right? So this is very important. Today I want to practice these prepositions. So send your message in the chat. I will try to check live as we go, okay? And while you prepare your sample sentence, I will give you one more example that you can use, and or pattern. So you can also say, for two people in this situation, person one gave person two thing. This is pattern 2 today. Person one gave person two thing. For example, I gave my friend, person two, the key. I gave my friend the key, right? In this sentence, there's no preposition, right? So if you forget which preposition should I use, you can use this one. Yeah? Here's one more example, and then I'll come to check you in the chat. So my friend gave my roommate the key. My friend gave my roommate the key. Here's person one, my friend. Here's person two, my roommate. Here's my verb, gave, and the thing, the key. So my friend gave my roommate the key. So this is our first set of very basic patterns that I want to practice for today, okay? So I think some of you are sending some examples in the chat. Let's see. Oh, nice. Okay, Juan says, I gave the exam. I gave the exam to my students. Very nice. Nice one. Okay. Another one. Rosa says, hey, Rosa, I gave the cell phone to my mother. Perfect. And I gave the book to my teacher. Perfect. Okay. Ahab says, I gave to you a gift. Make sure to use I gave a gift to you. Yeah, let's practice this pattern. I gave a gift to you, right? I gave a gift, your thing, to person. Yeah, okay. Good, so that's all that I see right now. Hopefully more people will send some. So this is the basic way that we express giving something to someone else, yeah? I gave this thing to that person, okay? So now that we know this, let's go with our second part here for today, yeah? So how do we talk about the other side of this? How do we talk about receiving or getting something, okay? So I want to look at this next. Oops, let me find it. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's take a look at how we express when we get something. I'm going to talk about the difference between getting and receiving too. Okay, there it is. Good. So I got thing from person. This is the first sample here. I got thing from person. So this expresses receiving something. And person got thing from me. Okay? So let's take a look at these two patterns and see how they are different. Yeah? So I want to start with this first one. I got thing from let's take a look. Yeah? So I got a present from my friend. Right? I got a present from my friend. Okay? So here's I got the thing, a present, right? In this case, from and then the person, right? I got a present from my friend. In this sentence, we use from, yeah? We are using from to show the origin of the thing, right? I got a present from my friend, not to in this case. Okay? And the second pattern is person got thing from me. Right? This is if you give a present or give the thing, right? For example, my friend got a present from me. Okay? So as you can see, these prepositions are very important. For example, my friend got. All right, so let me see your answers. I see you now, YouTube chat. What is up, YouTube? Hello, everybody. So let's take a look. YouTube, your examples. I'm catching up on your examples. I can see now. Your answers. I see you now, YouTube chat. He gave me a gift for my birthday. Nice one, Nohara, from the first section. I gave money to my daughter. Great, nice job, YouTube. Everybody's catching up there. I can see your sentences now. Akshay says, I gave money to my brother. I gave my mother the book. Good. Okay. Nice ones. Let's see. I'm looking for. Oh, someone says that there's echo. Sorry. Okay, fix the echo. Sorry, everybody. There's a little hiccup in YouTube today. All right, so let's see what else. I'll wait for YouTube to catch up. Facebook. I got the sound fixed, everybody. Thanks, everybody. There was a YouTube hiccup there. I fixed it. Don't panic. All right. So let's continue to the second group of examples then. The second group of examples uses got. So while we wait for the lag to catch us live, the difference between getting and receiving. We use get when we want to talk in everyday conversation. Yeah. So when we use receive, it sounds more formal. So if you want to sound more formal or more polite, maybe in a business situation or a work situation, then you can use receiving to do that. If you want to just talk to your friends, your family, if you're talking to, I don't know, someone at the supermarket maybe, use get. We tend to use get a lot more in American English than receive, okay? So please make sure to use get when you want to talk about receiving something. If you use receive in like a close situation, like with your family, it probably sounds a little too formal. So I recommend got. Yeah? So I got a present from my friend, or a person got thing from me. Okay? All right, I'm looking for your examples now. Okay. Rosa says, my aunt got a present from me. Nice. Juan says, I got bad news. Yes, yeah. I got bad news from my parents. Nice one. Okay. Akshay says, I got a pen from friends. Maybe from my friends. that sounds good. Miguel says, I got a present from my parents. Nice. Santos says, I got a check from my boss. Yeah, we love to get checks from the boss, right? Okay, good. Nice examples. So that's how we use get, but of course we can use receive in the same way, yeah? So as I said, using receive tends to sound more formal than using get, yeah? So these verbs are used in the same position. The only thing that changes is the level of the formality. It feels more formal to say receive, yeah? So I received thing from person, yeah? So this means the same thing as I got thing from person. Same meaning, yeah? But I received sounds more formal. I received a present from my friend. If I want to write a formal letter or something like that, then I can express that more formally, more politely with received. Yeah? And we can do the same thing with the second pattern too. Person received thing from me. Person received thing from me. Okay? So my friend received a present from me. Yeah? So in both of these, you'll notice we're using that from preposition too. My friend got a present, or my friend received a present from me. So I'm going to share at the end of today's live stream a tip for to and from prepositions. Okay? All right, so let's see. Other examples from you. Janina says, I received flowers from my boss. Nice example sentence. Hello, everyone says, I received a present. Yeah, I received a present from my coworker. Perfect. Okay. Darby says, I received a card from my boss on my birthday. Nice one. Okay. Any more? Let's see. Henry says, I received clothes from the laundry. Be careful. In that situation, we would not use receive, right? And I mean, unless it's like the dry cleaner, maybe you go to a business to pick up, but we use receive for like a gift, or like some people said, a check, like flowers, cake, something like that. So we don't really use it to mean pick up, right? Like pick up my clothes from the laundry, yeah? Maybe if they sent your clothes in the mail, it's okay. But we cannot use receive and pick up in 100% the same way. So please be careful. Okay? Others. Sadia says, I received a storybook from my friend. Good. Yeah. Some people, watch out for this little I received a thing, right? I received a. And of course, plural nouns are also okay too. Okay? Others are coming in on YouTube. Shukri says, I received a present from my sister. Nice. Okay. Mamonir says, I got a drink from my dad. Great. Okay. El Futbolero says, I received a verbal warning from my boss. Ooh. So there's one example that's not a gift. It's not a gift. That's something you don't want to receive. A verbal warning. So that means a spoken warning. You received a warning from someone. So that's not a gift. Great. Okay. Let's go to part 2. Wow, that was part 1. Oh my gosh, that was a lot. Okay, let's take a super quick break and then we'll go to part 2, which will be about lending. Yeah, borrowing and lending, the second one. Okay, so we talked about giving and receiving in part 1. Now we'll go to a quick break and borrowing and lending. So if you missed it, very, very quickly, I mentioned this earlier, but the team has free PDF cheat sheets for you to practice different vocabulary words in different situations and to practice many different things like conversation points and so on. If you have not checked this recently, you can maybe find some new things. The team is adding new stuff here all the time, so check this out. You can find all of these different PDFs for free. You can choose all of them. You don't have to choose just one or two or three. You can find all of these. They are free to download. You can put them on your phone, practice, print them out, put them on your refrigerator, on your desk, whatever. So please check this out. This is at EnglishClass101.com. You need your name and an email address to get these, and I hope that is helpful for your vocabulary studies. Okay, cool. So with that, let's continue to part 2. If you are just joining, today we are talking about how to give, receive, borrow, and lend. Okay, so we just talked about the first two, giving and receiving. Now I want to practice borrowing and lending. So let's get to this because I think this one is sometimes the really, really challenging one for many learners. So let's practice borrowing and lending. Let's begin with the first pattern. The first one uses the verb borrow, okay? So we are going to use the past tense verb. Here is the basic pattern I want to practice in this section, yeah? I borrowed thing or things from person. I borrowed things from person. So a quick reminder, quick refresher, to borrow means to take something temporarily for a short time, yeah? And then give it back, right? This is to borrow something. Like, I borrowed a cup from my brother, my first example sentence. So that means I took the cup from my brother. This is my brother's cup. I'm going to use it, and then I'm going to give back the cup, right? This is the meaning of borrow. In these cases, in these sentences, we use from. We do not use to, right? So we use borrow because the person taking the object is, in this sentence, me, right? The subject is taking the object, right? So the object comes from some other place, right? So I borrowed a cup from my brother. One more example. This uses a plural noun. I borrowed some markers from my friend. Yeah? I borrowed some markers from my friend. So if you want to use a plural noun, cool, no problem. Make sure to use this S though, yeah? I borrowed some markers from my friend, okay? So this is how we express borrowing things, taking something for a short period of time and then giving it back, okay? So I'm going to look for your examples and then I will give you a second example sentence to use. Sadia says, I borrowed a car from my friend. Perfect one, okay? Rosa says, I borrowed some cookies from my family. Did you borrow the cookies or did you take the cookies, right? Like if you eat the cookies, you cannot give them back, right? So make sure that verb is correct, right? So consider that. Well, let's see. Jose says, I borrowed $100 from my wife. Perfect, good. Henry says, I borrowed a pen from my classmate. Okay, good. I see some on Facebook. Let's check YouTube as well. Paloma says, I borrowed shoes from my friend. Perfect, nice one, Paloma. Shukri says, I borrowed a dress from my cousin. Nice, okay. Luciano says, ooh, good question. Can I borrow something that is not a material thing? Yeah, like sometimes people might ask like to borrow a minute of your time. That might be kind of an expression. Or like, can I borrow you for a moment? Which usually means please help me. Yeah, so there are some expressions where we might use borrow for kind of like people, right? For people or concepts, yeah. Okay, others, let's see. Some people are using I borrowed money, which is good. I'm looking for some other examples, creative examples. While I wait for that, let's look at the second pattern with borrow for today, yeah? So the second pattern here is if you want to talk about two other people, so not only you, but maybe you have two other people. Like there's person one, oh, you can't see, person one and person two, yeah? How do you express the exchange between these two people, right? So let's look at this in these two patterns. So first one, we have person one, right? So person one borrowed things from person two, okay? So in this situation, let's say my mom borrowed a sweater from me. Yeah, my mom borrowed a sweater from me. So that means another person, here's my mom, not really my mom, my mom. So my mom, she took a sweater from me. It was mine, right? She borrowed a sweater from me. She did not borrow a sweater to me. I often see learners use to in this situation. We cannot use to here. Yeah? My mom borrowed a sweater from me. So from marks the origin. Where did that thing start? Yeah? Here's the second one then. In a situation where there are two people, not you, how do we express this? Yeah? So my friend borrowed 2 cameras from work. So in this sentence, work is the origin or the start point of the 2 cameras. So we have to use from. Yeah? So if this is work, my boss maybe at work, and then this is my friend, I can say my friend borrowed 2 cameras from work. Yeah? So they're going to give back the cameras. Yeah? So in these situations, we can use this pattern. Person 1 borrowed things from person 2 or from organization 2, right? So this is how we express it when we are not part of the borrowing process. Yeah? James says, my sister borrowed Legos from me. Yeah, she did. Okay, good. All right, other example sentences. Marlou says, I borrowed markers from my daughter. Perfect, nice one. Wilson has a good expression here. I'm borrowing time. Yeah, that's a good expression to use when you're using time, maybe too much time for something. Okay. Others, Santos says, my girlfriend borrowed the car from me. Great, okay. Paloma says, my cousin borrowed some earrings from me. Perfect. Others, let's see, Facebook. I didn't forget you, Facebook. Okay. May says, Karen and I borrowed our boss's camera. Nice. Don't forget the apostrophe S. Don't forget to mark the possession with boss's camera, okay? Let's see. Juan has a good negative. My students didn't borrow the stapler from me. Nice. Okay, great examples, everybody. Nice ones. Okay, let's continue. I'm looking for your questions as well. Let's continue to the second part of this then, because I want to go to the opposite now. Lending. How do we talk about lending? Okay, so the opposite of borrowing is lending, right? When we borrow something, we take it and use it, keep it for a short time, and then give it back. So to lend, so lend is the present tense form, the regular dictionary form. Past tense is lent, lent. Yeah? So when we lend something, we give someone something. They take it, they do something, and then we expect it to come back to us. Yeah? So let's look at our basic pattern here. So I lent thing to person. I lent thing to person. For example, I lent a sweater to my mom. I lent a sweater to my mom. Okay? So here I have lent, my past tense verb, the thing that I gave to my mom, and then to. Notice this, to is my preposition here, my mom. Okay, so in this sentence, we do not use from, right? We are using to mark the destination, to mark the end point, right? So think of like the sweater. The sweater's traveling like to my mom, right? Or the sweater is going to my mom in that way. We cannot use from here. I lent a sweater to my mom, okay? All right. Good, some examples are coming. DI62 says, I lent a laptop, or I lent my laptop to my boss. Perfect, okay? Armin says, my friend borrowed my car. Many people borrowing cars from others in the chat today. Others, let's see. Amjad on Facebook says, I lent some books to my friends. Perfect, perfect. Nice job with the prepositions today, everybody. Mamonir on YouTube says, please lend me some money. Very important request pattern. Great, great. Janina, good question. Is lend the same as give? No, lend and give are very different. It's very important to know the difference. So to lend means to give something for a short time only. Yeah? And give means it's yours forever, right? So if I give you $100, you're excited, right? It's your $100 now. But if I lend you $100, you have to give it back to me. So very important. Lend and give are not the same, okay? All right, let's continue. Others, some of you are writing some very interesting example sentences. I'm going to skip a few of them. Let's see. Some of you have very good senses of humor today. I see you. So many people are using money. That's of course a very common way to use lend, but of course we also use cars, cameras, computers, lots of like expensive things we use as well too. Okay, Sheehan asks, are lent and rent the same? No, they are not. So lend and rent, no, they are not the same. To rent something, that can change. It means to give money, like for a house, to rent a house. You pay money to use a house for a short period of time or maybe a long time too. So that is very different from lend. Yeah? Okay. Let's see. Let's continue on to the next part of this section though, because we have another pattern to think about. So I want to share this second pattern, second and third pattern. So I lent person thing. Very basic. In this pattern, there is no preposition, right? We sometimes use this. If you worry like, oh, I don't know the preposition, you can use this pattern. Yeah. I lent my mom a sweater. I lent my mom a sweater. Yeah? So I gave my mom a sweater and she is going to give it back to me, right? We don't have the preposition here. This is just a different way to use lend in this kind of situation. Okay? So I lent person thing. All right? And the last pattern here is when you are the person, when you are going to receive something temporarily, how do you express that? You can do it with this pattern. So, person lent thing to me. Person lent thing to me. So, my brother lent a cup to me. Yeah? My brother lent a cup to me. Yeah? So, again, we cannot use from in these example sentences. Yeah? We have to use to. You can think about to like travel, right? It marks the end point or the destination. Yeah, the stopping point of that thing. Okay? All right, so this is how we use borrow and lend. I think that's the one that's sometimes a little tricky for learners. Henry has a good question on Facebook. So lending is the same as credit, right? So yes, if you use like banks or credit cards to get money and then you have to pay back the money, yes, they are lending you money. We're going to talk about this in the last part very, very quickly. Okay, others. I'm looking for trying to make sure everybody has a chance to get a question in today. Miguel says, my dad lent his car to me. Perfect. Okay, good. Let's finish up then because I am running late as usual, talking too much. So great work, everybody, with borrowing and lending. So just keep in mind those differences with those prepositions, yeah? Okay, let's continue on to the last point for today's lesson then. So I want to finish today by talking about loan versus lend and some preposition tips. So how can you kind of remember, should I use to, should I use from, and so on, yeah? So let's take a look at the first section, lend versus loan. What is the difference here? So let's start with lend. We just practiced lend, yeah? So lend is a verb, right? Here are some examples, right? Will the bank lend us money? Right? Will the bank give us money temporarily and then we give it back? So lend expresses this. And we just practiced this kind of sentence. I lent my car to my friend, right? So we can use lend as a verb. Yeah? This is important, okay? Verb. Let's compare this to loan. we use loan as a noun primarily. Some people say you can use it as a verb. Some people who are very, very strict say, no, you should always use lend. This is different depending on the style guide, depending on the guidelines. But we use loan usually as a noun. So a loan as a noun means usually money you receive from the bank or from a credit card. Yeah? It's the amount of money. For example, I got a loan from the bank. I got a loan from the bank. Or, the bank loaned us $10,000. This uses it as a verb. Some people who are very strict believe that we cannot use loan as a verb, but some people still use it. Some people use it just like this. The bank loaned us $10,000. So if you go to a bank or if you use a credit card, in English, for example, you maybe will see this use of loan as a verb. So this is the difference. So lend and loan have the same meaning in the sense of giving something and expecting to receive it back. Yeah, but loan loan is the only one we can use as a noun. Yeah, okay, all right, good. So I want to finish with one more very quick point then. The last thing I want to talk about today are some preposition tips. So I know that using to and from can be a little confusing with this, yeah? So here is kind of my tip with to and from. I want to start with to. How do I know to use to? So if the person giving something is the subject of your sentence, your preposition is to. For example, I gave my sweater to my mom, right? So in this sentence, the person giving the thing is the subject, right? I gave, right? So I, the subject, right? I gave. The person giving is the subject, so we use to, right? To mark the destination. I gave my sweater to my mom. In the second example sentence, it's the same. My friend gave the key to me, right? So the person the person that the object starts with, yeah, shows that that thing or that person is giving something. My friend gave the key to me. However, on the other hand, if the person receiving is the subject, we use from, yeah? So, for example, my mom borrowed a sweater from me, right? So, in this sentence, my mom is receiving the sweater, right? She is the subject of the sentence. My mom borrowed a sweater from me. From marks the start point of the sweater, which is me in this case, right? Let's look at the second example. I got the key from my friend. I got the key from my friend. Yeah? So again, I am receiving the key. In this situation, the key started with my friend. The start point of the key is my friend. So we have to mark the start point with from. So this is another way that maybe is helpful for some of you to know when we should use to and when we should use from. Okay, cool. So I hope that that is helpful for you in breaking down the differences between these two prepositions and, of course, loan and lend. All right, so I am late as usual, so let's finish up there. So that was super, super awesome. Those are some very basic but very important ways to use these key verbs. And I hope, as you can see, it's very important to know the differences between these verbs and to be able to use them correctly. So I hope that you got some good patterns that you can use in your everyday life and in your everyday communication now too. So I'll finish there for today's lesson. Thank you so much for joining me again live this week. I'm going to finish today's live stream there, but of course I'll be back next week. So here is next week's lesson information. Next week, I'll be back on Wednesday, March 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. If you don't know your local time, please use your amazing Google skills and Google it. Or you can set a notification on YouTube or on Facebook, or if you follow me on Instagram, sometimes I'll put a topic link and a reminder in my Instagram stories. So next week I'm going to talk about explaining recent activities. I'm going to focus on simple past and present perfect tenses. Just how do you talk about your recent things, your recent work, your recent projects, your recent studies? How do you do that? And what tenses should you use to do that? So please join me next week for a lesson on how to explain those things. All right, cool. So thank you so much for joining me live this week. Don't forget to check out the free PDF cheat sheets you can get at EnglishClass101.com. You can find this from the link below the video or above the video, YouTube below, Facebook above. Check this out to get a bunch of free PDFs to practice your vocabulary and other skills. So check this out. I hope that is helpful for you. So I'm going to say goodbye there. So thank you so much for joining me. You can come find me on Instagram. The link is in the YouTube description. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And I will see you again next